He gave his life for our country.
Fred is one of the town heroes. He's our military hero.
There should have been a beautiful funeral service in Clarksburg, Tennessee, for Fred Williams back in 1947.
It seems terrible to know that he's so far away from home.
Fred is instead under ice and snow, thousands of miles away, a small town's Navy hero that never returned.
Our population's about 400 right now.
By all accounts, Clarksburg has always been a small town.
Me and Fred was neighbors.
Maybe that's why everyone knew Fred Williams. Or maybe it's because everyone liked him.
He was a good-looking boy.
Just ask Elizabeth Crum, Fred's old girlfriend.
He'd come to my house and we'd play records on the Victrola.
In 1940, at the age of 20, Fred enlisted in the Navy. 6 years later, he was chosen for a special mission, flying over the uncharted coastlines of Antarctica, and this small Tennessee town saw the world through his eyes.
Fred Williams was really this world adventurer for this community.
Listed on the fleet's roster as Mariner George I.
Williams wasn't supposed to fly aboard the George I on December 30th, 1946, but when a shipmate backed out because of a bad tooth, Fred went as a replacement. It was the last trip he'd ever make.
Mariner George I is down with men.
Rescue crews hoped to find survivors, but feared they'd find a plane turned into an icy grave.
A signal fire. Some are alive down there.
They found both.
And a message on the wing. Lopez, Henderson, Williams, dead.
Word of Fred's death eventually made it back to Clarksburg, though his body never did.
The whole thing gives me chills. The whole story gives me chills.
They're buried under the wing of their plane.
It's sad.
When Elizabeth Crum found out about her old boyfriend, she cried.
To me, that was a natural thing to do. I'd lost a friend.
But it's not the end of it. You see, for decades, the Navy said trying to recover the men, now buried underneath as much as 150 feet of ice, was simply too dangerous.
Oh, I've got a lot of interest.
Lou Sapienza says it can be done.
We're definitely going to get them.
After all, he's done it before. Lou was part of a team that drilled through 300 feet of ice to recover this plane in Greenland back in 1992.
For me, it's an honor and a privilege to be here.
Now he wants to do the same in Antarctica.
What we call the gopher is we're going to melt a 4-foot wide hole down.
There's a plan been developed, and this town now sees a hope of bringing Fred back.
We never thought this day would come that Fred might actually come back home.
I can't fail now. I've got all these people counting on me is the way that I feel about it.
You'll get a military marker.
Okay.
Sure, it would be 60 years late, but the town of Clarksburg is hoping that beautiful military funeral might actually happen after all.
Well, I'd love to see that, yeah, sure would. I'd love to see him bring him back and put him up there in the graveyard with his mother and dad.
In Clarksburg, Jeff Tang.
I think that'll be the biggest funeral here that's ever been.
News Channel 5.